I'm 79 years old. My name is Walter. I didn't plan to say any of this out loud, not at this age. But when you wake up most mornings and the house is quiet enough to hear the clock breathing, certain thoughts don't let you rest anymore. There's one mistake I made again and again through my life. Not loudly, not dramatically, just often enough to shape everything. Before I tell you what it was, let me say this. If you're younger than me, listen closely. If you're my age, take a seat next to me. Today, I want to tell you about the things that don't leave, the things that stay when the house is quiet and the phone stops ringing. I'm not telling this to be remembered. I don't need agreement. I'm telling it because time has thinned out in front of me and honesty feels lighter than silence. These days, my world is small. The same kitchen table, the same chair by the window, the same cup with a crack in the handle that I keep forgetting to throw away. Most afternoons I watch the street. People walk dogs. Kids ride bikes. Someone new moved into the blue house across the way, though I still think of it as the Harris place. I don't go out much anymore, not because I can't, because I don't always see the point. That's not sadness. It's just what happens when your life begins to feel finished. And that's when it hit me. Not all at once. Not like lightning. More like realizing you've been standing in the rain for years and only just now noticing you're soaked. The mistake I kept making was simple. I kept postponing my life. I told myself I'd get to things later. Later when work calmed down. Later when money felt safer. Later when I wasn't so tired. Later when the kids were older. Later when I had more time. I believed there would always be more time. When I was young, that felt like common sense. In my 20s, I worked at a parts warehouse on the edge of town. Concrete floors, metal shelves taller than a church ceiling, the smell of oil that never quite washed out of your hands. I married Helen at 24. She had a laugh that came out before she could stop it, loud, unapologetic. I loved that about her, even when it embarrassed me in restaurants. We rented a small place with thin walls and a heater that knocked like it was angry to be alive. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. Back then, every decision I made felt reasonable. Extra shifts meant stability. Stability meant safety. Safety meant being a good husband. When Helen asked if we could take a weekend trip, I'd say, after this busy season. When my friends invited me fishing, I'd say, next month. When my father called just to talk, I'd say, can I ring you back later? Later became my favorite word. I wasn't chasing riches. I wasn't avoiding my family. I was doing what men were praised for doing, providing, enduring, staying busy. I came home tired most nights. I'd loosen my tie, sit on the edge of the bed, and stare at nothing for a minute before standing up again. Helen would talk while cooking, about the neighbor's new curtains, about something funny she'd heard on the radio, about nothing important. I nodded, answered when appropriate. I was there, but only in body. We had 2 kids, a boy first, then a girl. I remember holding my son and thinking, I'll slow down soon. I remember my daughter's first steps and thinking, things will ease up next year. They grew quietly. School plays I half-watched. Soccer games I arrived late to. Conversations interrupted by my watch. I wasn't absent. That's the dangerous part. I was present enough to believe I was doing fine. Years passed without announcing themselves. Bills, birthdays, laundry folded and unfolded again, On Sundays, I'd mow the lawn while the kids played inside. I told myself it was responsibility. I didn't notice how often Helen stopped asking me to join her for walks. Not because she didn't want me there, because she already knew the answer. The cost didn't arrive in one moment. It arrived in inches. A dinner skipped, a conversation postponed, a hug shortened because I was distracted. There's a sound a house makes when people stop lingering in the same rooms. I hear it now. Back then, I didn't. By my 40s, the warehouse promoted me. More money, more hours, more stress. People congratulated me. Helen smiled politely. Our kids became teenagers and then strangers with backpacks. I told myself we'd reconnect once things slowed down. They didn't. My father died when I was 46. Heart went in his sleep. I remember standing in his kitchen afterward, staring at a mug he'd used that morning. I kept thinking about the calls I hadn't returned. I told myself I'd do better. I didn't. Life doesn't change because you promise it something. Helen got sick in her early 60s. Nothing dramatic at first, just fatigue, doctor visits, papers folded too many times. I still went to work most days. I told myself she understood, and she did. That might be the cruelest part. She never complained. She'd say, "I know you're tired." So I rested. She'd say, "We can talk later." So we didn't. One evening, she asked me to sit with her on the porch. The sun was setting. The light was soft. I said, "In a minute." That minute never came. She fell asleep. She didn't wake up the next morning. After the funeral, people filled the house. Then they left. The silence afterward was different, permanent. That's when clarity arrived, not with shouting, not with tears, with the simple understanding that there was no later left. The conversations I meant to have were gone. The walks, the weekends, the ordinary Tuesdays, all gone. I replayed memories, looking for where I'd gone wrong. There was no single disaster, just repetition, choosing later instead of now. My children call me. We're polite. They have their lives. I don't blame them. I taught them, without meaning to, that presence is optional. Some nights I sit in Helen's chair. I don't know why I keep it. The fabric smells like time. At 79, you stop imagining who you'll become. You start inventorying who you were. I worked hard. I showed up when it mattered on paper. But love doesn't live on paper. It lives in shared silence, in unplanned moments, in choosing people when it's inconvenient. That's the mistake I finally understand. I didn't waste my life. I delayed it. And delay is quiet. It doesn't feel dangerous. It feels responsible until one day there's nothing left to postpone. If you're listening to me now, I'm not here to instruct you. I don't have rules. I only have what I noticed too late. The moments you think will wait usually don't. The people who love you are not renewable resources. Work replaces you faster than you think. Voicemails don't capture tone. Photographs don't capture warmth. And success doesn't sit beside you when the lights are off. If I could speak to my younger self, I wouldn't tell him to quit his job. I'd tell him to come home earlier sometimes, to sit longer at the table, to answer the phone, to take the walk. Not because life is short, but because it doesn't pause. If this story meant something to you, maybe sit with it for a moment. And if you're willing, share your own experiences or memories in the comments. Sometimes reading someone else's story makes the quiet feel less heavy. If you'd like to hear more reflections like this, you can subscribe to the channel. You can like the video or share it with someone who might need a quiet voice tonight. I'll still be here by the window tomorrow, watching the street, listening to the clock, trying not to postpone the time I have left, because, in the end, it isn't the years that disappear. It's the moments we keep saying we'll come back to till there's nowhere left to return.